truth was never the highest priority of human society. It was the highest priority of some individuals, but never of society as a whole, because society as a whole does not function on the basis of truth. And if you take two of the most powerful institutions of humankind, let's think about science and the scientific community, and let's think about religion and churches and so forth, I think that none of them has truth as their chief value. As individuals, yes, but as institutions, no. I think the chief value of science is power, and the chief value of religion is order, it's organization. Religion is all about having order in society, and science is mainly about gaining power over the world. They use truth to some extent on the way to achieving power or to achieving order, but this is not their highest value.
Say more a bit about power. What do you mean?
I think science as an institution is interested in gaining the power, to gain control over the world, to be able to gain control over diseases, over the human body, over the environment, over rivers and animals and forests. I mean, when you have you submit a grant to somebody who it all comes down to money in many cases. In order to have an institution, if you're a freelance scientist, you just explore the truth, okay. But as an institution, at the university, you need money to finance. So you submit a research grant, and you have to convince the authority not of the truth. You have to convince the authorities that what you want to do will somehow make us more powerful, will somehow enable us to produce a new weapon, will somehow enable us to produce more food, will somehow enable us to gain control of a previously uncontrollable epidemic of disease. And this is really what gets the money. So, of course, it needs to also to be true to some extent. If it doesn't work, then who wants it?
Control,
medicine is about really controlling disease. Engineering is about really being able to build a dam that will stop the river from flowing.
Yeah, but the language of control, I think, make it seem like it's a psychosis or it's a, something unpleasant and not desirable, where you could have said science has a desire to improve the human condition. And we want to improve the human condition in all kinds of ways. And of course, it means understanding what's going on and trying to do better. It's just such a nice framing. Can we agree to stick to that rather than being control freak? That just doesn't.
I think in most, it's not a contradiction. It's of course a question of how you frame it. But looking, at hundreds of years of scientific institutions and scientific progress, not in all cases, but in many cases, the basic thinking is that in order to improve the human condition, we need to gain control of something. It's not like, okay, let's all do yoga and this will improve the human condition. It's more like, how do we build a dam? How do we cut down a forest? How do we produce a new kind of antibiotics? Things like that. There are exceptions, I know, but trying to present the big picture, 500 years of modern science, I think it was much more about gaining control than about anything else in terms of improving the human condition, or how to improve the human condition. The first breakthrough scientific discipline that launched the scientific revolution, according to my understanding, was geography. It was all these sailors and all these explorers leaving Europe in the 14th and 15th century, and in the 15th and 16th century, and exploring the world and mapping it. This is the first big scientific project to map the world. People often speak about astronomy and, Copernicus and Galileo and so forth, but this was really a side issue. The big thing was geography and was exploring the world. This is where the big money went to. And the reason the big money went there is because the kings of Spain and Portugal and France and so forth, and the bankers in Genoa and Venice, they thought correctly that mapping the world was the first step to conquering it. And this proved that science is something that is worth investing in. I mean, all these planets, I mean, the sun is in the center, the earth is in the center. Who cares? How can you make money from that? How can you conquer territories from that? But geography, I mean, the king of France saw that, yes, this king of Spain, he gave money to Columbus and to Magellan, and now he has all this gold from Mexico. I also want. And this was like the first big project, successful project of modern science was that, mapping the world. And it was obvious to everybody that it's not being done out of sheer curiosity. It's being done in order to control and to conquer. And it's still, I think, the case that when we come to, we now try to map the brain. And despite everything that people might say to the contrary, to me it seems obvious that we try to map the brain not out of sheer curiosity, but because we want to control it. We want to conquer it.
So, conquer